Jamestown College. This is Night Watch.
Good evening and welcome to Night Watch, the JCTV Channel 16 Public Affairs program. I'm Matthew NIES. Animals, those cuddly, furry creatures that bring joy to nearly everyone. After all, a man's best friend is supposedly a dog. Most of us, myself included, have a soft spot in our hearts for animals, whether dogs and cats, rabbits or gerbils, domesticated or wild. They just seem to be around us all of the time. But most of us don't give much thought to other roles animals play. That of specialty trained workers. For many years, that military and law enforcement agencies have used dogs to assist with their duties, from sniffing out the enemy in tunnels in the jungles of the South Pacific and Vietnam, to patrolling the streets of America's biggest and most crime-ridden cities. The canine dog and their handlers have become a way of life. But there's more to service animals than just serving as four-legged warriors. In fact, there are more than just dogs involved with service. Animals include a wide range of beasts, from horses to rabbits, cats to birds, performing a number of amazing tasks from seeing eye guide dogs to therapy horses and beyond. Tonight, more than just a friend, animals at work. We'll explore those topics and meet some of the animals along the way, here on our Sunday program. But first, this background report from correspondent John Tyler Petch.
When most people think of service animals, what comes to mind first is usually leader dogs for the blind. Yet another type of animal people think of are the canine dogs serving with law enforcement, in corrections, and of course with the military, where the service animals have a long and distinguished history.
Watch it! Come on, release my dog! No, release him!
A somewhat new area where animals put their abilities to work for humans is as therapy partners. The United States Army's 3rd Infantry, the Old Guard, who for over 60 years has provided both honor guard and the horse caisson platoon for military funerals, has taken on a new mission, helping to provide therapy for wounded warriors.
We came up with the concept plan. We would like to run a pilot program, therapeutic riding program here at Fort Myer. We propose to use caisson platoon soldiers and caisson platoon horses. It would be soldiers helping soldiers, and that the physical and emotional benefits, therapeutic benefits to the soldiers would be just great for them as they continue the process of rehabilitation.
There are many other areas where therapy animals have proven their value in working with human partners. But as recent Jamestown College graduate Anna SCHIMMELPFENNIG points out, the animals used are a lot more than just dogs and horses.
Cats can be used as therapy animals, but a lot of research has shown that even fish, birds, bunnies, whatever, any kind of animal can have those beneficial effects on their owners.
You did research for your senior presentation on therapy dogs. What did you find from your research?
Well, I was interested in if other college students would have the same effects that I did when I interacted with dogs. So the students came in and they completed a stress scale and an affect scale. Then they interacted with 2 therapy dogs for about 15 minutes and then completed the second half of both of those scales. And I found statistically significant decreases in stress and negative affect and a statistically significant increase in joviality.
We traveled to Judd, North Dakota, where the Great Plains Assistance Dog Foundation operates Service Dogs for America, and spoke with head trainer Mitch Doyle about what kind of work they do.
We train service dogs to be emergency medical response dogs for people with seizures, diabetic. We also train straight service dogs for people that are paraplegic, quadriplegic. We train mobility assist dogs for people that have, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis. And we train the difficult cases as far as people with multiple disabilities, epilepsy, plus being in a wheelchair.
What type of activities do the students do while they're here with the dogs?
We have 2 student apartments that they live in for 3 weeks. What we do is train them to be handlers of the service dog. We have a mobility assist gentleman coming, and we're going to train him to walk with a harness next to a dog and his cane and get him used to having the dog, keep him in balance, keep him in check.
Chris Danielson is an assistant trainer with Great Plains Assistance Dog Foundation, and his job is to work with a number of different animals, training them to fetch a variety of objects when working with mobility challenged clients.
Do my fills. Where are they? Get the pills. Oh, thank you. Not only do my pills, but thank you. Yep.
The program boasts specialty training areas as well as a number of practical living spaces to train dogs in everyday living skills.
Thank you. As you can see, we've got a foam pad on here. Judd, unlike Holly, doesn't like to grab things that are metal with his teeth. So we just adapted and we put a piece of foam on here that he doesn't mind grabbing.
Doyle told us they involve the James River Correctional Center in training dogs.
We have an inmate canine assistance program up at JRCC. We have 6 dogs up there.
Yeah.
We have, I believe there's about 20 or 22 inmates that are in the program. There's 3 to 4 guys per dog. And it's teaching them how to be more responsible.
Occasionally, the match between client and animal doesn't work out. Danielson discusses one case where the dog was returned, but they quickly found a better match.
The reason she came back was the child that she was with had a primary caregiver. The primary caregiver is no longer with the family, and they went from working with basically 2 caregivers to working with like 5 or 6. So Holly didn't have a handler anymore. So the family called us up and asked us if we'd want her back, which obviously we did. So we got her back, and now we're going to replace her with a lady for mobility assist.
Earlier this year, Harvard University's library began circulating dogs, real dogs, during finals week to help students cope. Jamestown College doesn't have real dogs, but there are stuffed animals available.
Actually, there has been some research on holding like a stuffed animal or a stuffed dog and petting that, and that has shown similar decreases in stress.
But not everyone's happy with stuffed animals. This is JT PETSCH with JCTV Channel 16 News, Jamestown.
When we come back, we'll be joined by our regular news analyst, Keith Norman of the Jamestown Sun, and our guests, Dr. Robert BADAL, who is the president of Jamestown College, as well as being involved with raising therapy dogs, Bob TOSO, who is the superintendent of schools in Jamestown, Mike Romans, who is a teacher with the Jamestown Public Schools and who owns and works with 2 therapeutic dogs he used in the classroom, Cindy Morgan, who is with the North Dakota chapter of the National Federation of the Blind, all here on our Sunday program. Welcome to our program. If you're just joining us, this is Night Watch, the JCTV Channel 16 monthly public affairs program. I'm joined by our special analyst, Keith Norman of the Jamestown Sun. Keith, welcome to the show once again.
Thanks, Matt.
And Dr. Robert BADAL, who is the president of Jamestown College, and along with his wife, Donna, is involved with raising therapy dogs. Dr. BADAL, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
We're also joined by Bob TOSO, who is the superintendent of schools here in Jamestown. Mr. TOSO, thank you for joining us. We're glad you could come in today.
Thank you.
And Mike Romans, who teaches in the Jamestown School District and also has therapy dogs. Now, Dr. BADAL, you and your wife have raised therapeutic dogs for several years now. Can you tell us about the animals and what they do and with whom?
Yes, we started working with therapy dogs when we were living in Missouri in the late 90s. And we've had 4 of them, and they've all been Great Pyrenees. And the Great Pyrenees is a working breed, and they are fairly large dogs. I mean, by comparison to cockapoo or something, they're a big dog. Right. They are called gentle giants. That's how my wife refers to them, because as a breed, while they're used originally, their purpose was largely to protect flocks of sheep, and they're still used that way in the U.S. in many areas where sheep are raised. They actually bond with the flock from the time they're puppies, and they live their whole life with the sheep and protect them from predators.
Now you brought your dog along here. What's her name?
This is Harmony. She's 8 years old, and she is a therapy dog, an active working therapy dog. She goes to the Ann Carlson Center every week and to the nursing home here in Jamestown.
And what are some of the things that she does when at the Carlson Center and nursing home?
Well, she really visits with the residents. Her whole life is, when she's working, she is bringing comfort. And when one of the children at Ann Carlson, if she comes into their room and goes up to them, some of those children are not able to move about, to walk. She'll put her nose right in their lap where they can touch her, or she'll get close enough where if they reach out and just close their hand on their fur. These dogs have a double coat of fur, and so they're very soft. And it's really fun to watch when Donna takes them, to watch the expressions on the children's faces. Just when they connect with these dogs by touching them, you can see it on their face most of the time. So it's really been very rewarding and gratifying to see how much joy they can bring.
Now recently, the movement for therapeutic dogs in the classroom has gotten a big boost by the addition of dogs to the Harvard University Library, where students can check out a dog if they're undergoing stress. Superintendent Toso, what do you make of this?
Well, we know that dogs, a good example, people that have pets live longer, and dogs are good stress relievers. So that just, it makes sense, stands to reason. I know dogs, we can talk in counseling terms, unconditional positive regard, and that's what dogs bring, is they don't judge, they just love. And so dogs, that's what they bring always, whether they're therapy or a family pet. Yeah, that's what they bring to families.
Now, have you instituted like a dog program in the Jamestown schools at all? Or?
Not specifically, no. We have a teacher, Mike, here that has therapy dogs. I have a therapy dog that goes with my wife to another school district, but we don't have a policy per se. But we would deal with it if teachers wanted to, like with Mike here, when he wanted to bring his therapy dog into the classroom. We just dealt with it on a singular case basis, and we would do that again if another teacher wanted to do something like that.
Now, Mr. Romans, he mentioned you bring your dogs into the classroom with you. Do you think there's a strong correlation between learning and the use of therapeutic animals in the classroom, and sometimes, like in the Harvard case, outside of the classroom?
Well, I think that it's sometimes going to be tough to get a direct correlation, but what it does more so with the, having a correlation with motivation and actually wanting to be in school. So I think that it kind of kickstarts the learning and, also makes kids feel a little bit special. I teach in a K-5 special ed classroom, and, a lot of those kids get ridiculed and a lot of those kids get teased when they're pulled out of the classrooms. And, if kids know that, hey, they get to go into a classroom where there's a dog sitting there waiting for them, then it's not such a bad deal. It's not such a bad idea for them.
Now, do you think your students perform better when you bring your dogs?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, their performance is better, I think, a lot of because she's motivating. She gives them that, like you said, dogs don't judge. She gives them that unjudgmental ear, and they feel like they don't have to perform in front of anybody that's going to criticize.
And what kind of dog do you have?
Black Lab.
Okay, yeah. I actually, my family, we have a couple of Black Labs. They're real, they're a treat. Sometimes they get a little bit out of hand, but you know, you gotta love them. Now, Mr. Toso, you said you have some dogs. What are some things that you use your therapy dog for?
As I mentioned, my wife brings our dog to her classroom in another school district probably 2 days a week. And a couple of the things that she talks about is how the dog just seems to instinctively know when a student, and she works in a junior high, when a student needs a little attention, and he'll go up to that student, and the students will just scratch his ears, and she had a student a couple of years ago that struggled in school, and like Mike said, maybe didn't always want to be there, but that was a student that every day that Junior was there, he would get a treat. You know, he got kind of a special thing. He got to give the dog a treat. So yeah, those things, like Mr. Roman said, that it gives kids just makes them feel better about being in school. I bring Junior, I periodically go into classrooms and read, and we always laugh. Lainey, my wife will say to her kids that Junior couldn't be with them today because he's reading to a classroom over in Jamestown, and kids will go, okay, and then they'll start figuring out, wait a minute, Junior can't read, and oh, okay, yeah, but he comes with me when I read, and I always say I wouldn't need to be there, because the kids just kind of glamour onto him and scratch and play and that stuff, and I wonder what goes on in the classroom after I leave. Yeah. But I guess that's the teacher's problem, to get the kids back on. But for the few minutes that we're there reading, they're really attentive to the story that we're talking about, because I usually read a Marley story, and they're into the dog, and it's a lot of fun. I know it's fun for the kids, and I know our dog loves it. He just loves all the attention, and I'm sure either Bob or Mike would say the same thing. The dogs like it. It's as good for the dogs as it is for the kids.
No, sorry, go ahead.
There's some particular training and certification involved
Yes.
to get to the level of things you're talking about
Correct.
here, though.
Correct. My wife found an organization called Love on a Leash, and we had to do specific training, get certified through them, and he is certified through that organization, and we had to do that. You know, you always, any time you're in a public institution, you worry about liability, and so we had, as long as he was certified through an organization like that, then we are covered personally through our homeowner's liability. So, and he did some outside training. We had a person that we knew over in Valley City that trained the dog for, I think it was about 3 weeks. Took him in and not only trained the dog, but also trained my wife and I.
Most dog training actually involves training the person more than the dog.
Yes. So yeah, there were things that we had to go through too.
And what kind of things do you go through? Do they just handle the dog this way?
Right. Mostly, it's just like school. You can't teach one thing in school, and then the child goes home at the end of the day, and the parents are teaching something else, that contradicts what's going on, behavior or anything like that. So what our job was to reinforce what the trainer had taught the dog, consistent discipline, consistent rewards, those sorts of things. So and it sounds, I don't know how to make this sound better, but it's who's the boss. Right. That the owner is the boss, not the dog. So it's just little things like when you're taking the dog out for a walk, my wife will put him in a heel so that he walks right beside her, or if we're feeding him, he's got to sit. I know one of the things we work on this. He's not as good as this maybe as he should be, but we've got a blanket where he can stay. And if Lainey is in the kitchen making dinner, she'll say place. And he's supposed to sit on this blanket. Not as good at that always as he should be.
I think that's the lab in him.
Yeah, that's the lab in them. Yeah, labs are a little more. I know they're squirrely sometimes, but you know, it just things that, again, to train us so that the dog maintains his discipline, so that when he's in the classroom, he's well behaved.
Now, did you have to go through a similar process, Dr. BADAL?
We actually go to Moorhead to train our dogs. To the FM Obedience School, and they have a therapy group there that works together and trains together, and then they do the testing and so on that's required. So we find that that has worked well for us. It takes almost 2 years for us typically to train a dog completely to do therapy work. And so our younger dog is only 9 months old, and Gracie is not yet really a trained therapy dog, but Donna has taken her to Ann Carlson and to the nursing home, and she's got great instincts to be a good therapy dog, and hopefully we'll get, once we get the obedience skills to the point where she'll be able to do the test and so on, we feel like she's going to be a great therapy dog.
Now, are you certified, like do you have to be certified to be able to train the dogs, or?
The owner and the dog.
Right. So is there a process you have to go through?
Yes,
then?
Right. There is actually a process, and in our case now with FM Obedience, they actually do the testing, and they train both the trainer and the dog. Okay. So it's, and then the group will sometimes do projects together. Though for us being 100 miles away, it's a little bit hard for us to participate in some of the things, but we have done a few of those kinds of events too.
Now, Mr. Romans, did you have to also, like, do you undergo like a training process where you have to go and get certified by taking certain tests, or?
Well, my dog Daisy's certified through the same organization that Mr. Toso's is, and you know how that works is you have to get, you do your basic obedience training, and then they go through an evaluation, and then once that evaluation's passed, you have to do 10 hours of practice time, where you go with somebody. I did mine at the Ann Carlson Center with the activities director that Donna takes her dogs to, and then once you do that, they sign off on it, and then you're set to go. And as the one that was doing the training, I'm then certified with Daisy. A lot of it depends on there's a few different therapy dog organizations that you can get certified through. And the main reason to do it is, like Bob said, the liability insurance, and then also just the collaboration. Being able to say, hey, I've got this situation. How do you guys handle this? What do you see? So,
are there like different levels of therapy certification, such as your dog is allowed to do this, but you can't do that, or vice versa?
Not that I've come across. No, I think that as you're training, it's just kind of expected that there's kind of a basic training to get them certified, and then it's kind of expected that you're going to train them to do the type of therapy work, whether it's going into a hospital or something like that, or going into a school. You would need them trained differently and to react to different situations.
So does that certification qualify the dog to go into places where you may not normally be able to go? For example, like a seeing eye dog is able to go in places where they wouldn't normally allow dogs. Does that certification for your therapy dog allow you to go in to certain places like a nursing home or community center?
If they allow that type of thing? I mean, it's not, they don't have to because she's certified, but they usually are going to want that certification.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. This is a very interesting discussion. Thank you so much for your input tonight. When we come back, we'll be joined by 2 representatives of the North Dakota chapter of the National Federation of the Blind, along with a very special worker.